After countless painful hours of testing green, I think I found a build of green that isn't Digimon Beatdown that's actually really cool and takes names. This green deck, this will sprout all over your opponent's face and bring you victory. So let's talk about it. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today I have a Rosemon control deck. This Rosemon control deck, I have spent hours upon hours building it to perfection, testing it against the big three, the red Omnimon, the blue Omnimon, and the purples, just to make sure that this deck is actually capable of winning. And with this perfected build, the build I now hold in my hands, it is single-handedly the most devastating green deck I have ever come across, and if you can play this deck properly, you will win games, and you will win a lot of games. What's really nifty about Rosemon control is that it's not Oonga Boonga, Tidamon deck, where it's all about your green value evolutions, and you can literally hand the deck to a monkey at your local petting zoo, and they can probably shuffle it and play the deck just as well as you can. This Rosemon deck has 7,000 IQ plays, I swear to God. You make one mistake, and that can start a chain of events that literally cost you the entire game. Just one mistake, and you cannot do that. This deck requires perfect play. Now, I do recommend that you give this deck a try, but when you're playing this deck in a competitive environment, you might want to take some performance-enhancing drugs, like Ritalin or something of that equivalent, just to make sure you're focused, because you do not want to mess up with this deck. It can cost you. I've already went into that, but you need to play perfectly. I can't stress that enough. And now, before we actually talk about the deck, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn that notification bell into smashed potatoes. It's actually a green card that we're not playing in this deck for some reason. I don't know. There's no room for it. Smash Potatoes is just not the card, but it's the card that makes you smash a notification bell. So do it. Alright, I think I've wasted enough of your time. Let's talk about this deck and why it's so amazing. We're going to start with our baby lineup, which consists of 3 Tamers and 2 Frymon. This is the tested variant that I like the most, because these are both useful and not useful at the same time. This does get you through the early game better than this card does. This card works once you start suspending things all over the place. And that's really cool and all, but you need to get past the early game to get to the late game, and then these get a lot better. But they're both good, so they're both here. 3 to 2 is the ratio I do prefer. Now, we play 15 level 3s. We play 4 of the Palmon on play search to level 4. Great card. We talk about more about this later. This is where the big brain stuff starts. Then we play 4 Tentomon. It's inheritable, allows you to suspend 3,000 or less when attacking. Really good against getting out of the early game, against decks like Rookie Rush or whatever. We play 4 Goblimon, because this is 2 cost to play. And we play 3 Agumon, because it gives you plus 1,000, but really it's the least exciting skill out of the inheritables, so we only play 3. I'd rather play the other level 3s over it, but that's our 15 level 3s. Now, we do play a weird line of level 4s. We play 2 Vegemon, because it costs 1 to evolve. We play 3 Cobbletariamon, because it costs 1 to evolve, and it has this wicked inheritable. It's basically Agumon, this guy, on steroids, and I'd rather have this. This will help you better in the late game compared to the Agumon, which is just 1,000. This is 1,000 plus, and that's really good, based on how many suspended guys they have. 4 Togemon, when evolving, search level 5 or higher. Again, we'll go more into this later with the Palmon. And then 4 blockers. 4 that Woodmon, because you gotta have some of that big wood in your deck. It's just, you have to. There's no choice. For our level 5s, we play 9. We play 4 Lilymon. When attacking, suspend something without blocker. Amazing card. We play 3 Okuamon, inheritable. When this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, and it survives, you gain a memory. The whole point of this deck, we'll talk about later, really can capitalize off this skill, give you a lot of memory, so it's good to have. Our last 2 level 5s are 2 Cherrymon, because I wanted the 5th and 6th blocker. Sometimes you have to evolve your blocker to move on in life, and if you can evolve it into a Cherrymon, that's just fine. And it's good to have. It helps you protect your Rosemons, which we'll be talking about in a second. Our level 6s consist of 3 Rosemon. With Rosemon, if it's suspended like this, you know, if the opponent attacks you directly, you can rest one of their Digimon. That's what Rosemon's there for, and the whole point of Rosemon is just to rest your opponent's Digimon. And you have blockers in place to prevent them from killing your Rosemon with things like Retaliator and Purple or just whatever else. You want to keep Rosemon alive as long as possible. It really, really cripples decks like Rookie Rush and the like that just can't get over this. And that's really good. And you want to suspend your opponent's Digimon, and that's where it all starts, with this guy. But then we play for the big MVP, Puppetmon. This is the only deck where you're going to want to evolve into this. Sometimes hard playing it works too, but the on-play suspending wins games by itself, and the when attacking gain 1 memory also wins games by itself. You evolve for 3. Essentially, if you can stick this on the board for 3 turns, you get your memory back, you get your investment back. Really, really good. And it combos, as we'll tell you later. But this card, I want to see this slightly more than I want to see Rosemon. This is better in the early game, and Rosemon's really good in the late game. So I do prefer to see this over this, but they're both great. But that's it for level 6s. We're not doing Titamon because we aren't Monkey. Next up, we play 2 Mimi. Originally I was playing 4, saw it way too much and hated it. It didn't really do anything at 4. 3, same thing. 2 seems to be the magic number, because it's only useful if you get it right away. If you start drawing it later, it starts to be dead bricks in your hand. You only need 1 on the field to get the 3 memory thing. And as tempting as it sounds to have 4 Mimi on the field and just spam your egg deck, honestly, it will not come up as often as you think, because it requires you to have all 4. And that's just not realistic. So I think 2 is the magic number. When I put this to 2, I started seeing more success because I wasn't drawing these as often, and that's honestly okay. 2 will get the job done. You want to get to the late game anyway. You don't want to play an aggressive green deck. This is a control green deck, so 2 is fine. Our final 4 cards are 4 Flower Cannon because it's broken. Just suspend a Digimon is its main, and then its security suspends everything without blocker. Yep, very, very good. Alright, now we want to talk about some combos and some ideal evolutionary lines you want to find yourself in. These 2 cards go really well together, because if you delete a Digimon, when they're attacking with this, if you have this underneath it, you're getting 2 memory for that, which is really good. And then, depending on what else you got going on, you could make it a lot more scarier. You could throw Kabuterimon into the mix, give you extra damage, too. So Listen itself is a really scary concept. If you can get this underneath this is kind of optional. It's really these 2 that give you the memory strategy. Then you're getting 2 memory a turn, as long as you keep your Pokemon alive. And that's really cool. So that's what one of the main features of is the deck. Evolving a Puppetmon by using this. Yeah, it's cool to get the Lilymon underneath it, but otherwise, I wouldn't really bother. I would just prioritize this for this. Speaking of Lilymon, I do ideally want to set up these together. By attacking, you're going to be suspending something without blocker. And then when they attack you, if they do, you're going to suspend something else. So you're getting a lot of suspending out of these cards. Alternatively, you attack with your Rosemon, Lilymon thing. You attack them directly, or attack one of their creatures. You suspend something, and then you get your Puppetmon and your Akuamon line, and you kill it, you gain 2 memory. And then that just lets you continue playing the game. That's some big brain stuff. If you can set up lines like this, you know, you're doing really well. It's kind of also a reason that I'm playing the wonky ratios that I am, because I want to play essentially 7 cards of these combined, and 7 cards of these combined, which is why I'm playing 4 and 3, and 4 and 3. And true, they do have merits if you switch them around. That's all okay. But if you can get the dream teams together underneath each other, you're winning the game. Any game where I've successfully managed to set up this line on the board, I've won very quickly. So just goes to show you how strong this green combo can be. Now, everything we've been talking about so far is about the bigger end of things. And To use Rosemon properly and to use Puppetmon and all your inheritables, that does take a good amount of skill. You have to suspend the right things, attack the right things. Essentially, you're trying to clear their board without the use of cards like Gaia Force or that green one that gets rid of one or whatever. But these cards, I want to spend a little bit talking about these cards in particular, because you're revealing 3 cards and you're putting them at the bottom. You can choose the order of the cards you put at the bottom, which is very, very important. In this deck, you want to get to the late game. These cards will help you get to the late game. Once you get to the late game, cards like these allow you to configure your deck for the late game. If you can play enough Palmon and Togemon and you get there, sometimes it doesn't come up, but sometimes picking the order of everything that goes underneath your deck as you reveal them wins you the game, because you can set up your evolution lines, you can set up the cards you want to draw, you can do all sorts of things just by picking the right card at the right time and by stacking everything else properly. This is the part that takes the most skill, and you get rewarded for it when you get to the second half of your deck. Trust me, it happens. I have games where I resolve multiples of these and multiples of those, and before you know it, the game is still dragging on because it's a slow game, it's a control deck, and you start drawing from the cards that you put at the bottom. So picking the right order, manipulating your endgame, wins that endgame. You win. Your big brain plays allow you to just win the game if you get there. Like setting up a 3, 4, 5, 6, or setting up that Clouch Flower Cannon for when you need it. Honestly, people really overlook this. They overlook it. But this is where the main skill in green comes in. This is it. Combine it with all this, and all that, and all this, and all that. You need this. These are your main engine pieces. But this manipulates how your endgame goes, should you get there. And this is where it happens. It's these cards. If you do this properly, and you get to the endgame, you will win. 100%. Unless your opponent sacks you. Happens. I've only lost once, and it was due to a top-decked Omnimon online. That was unfortunate. Nothing I could have done about it. It let him get exactly enough for game. I didn't have Flower Cannon in my security to back it up. So, that's really it. Just keep that in mind. This deck, because of things like this deck takes an awful amount of skill. You need to practice. You're not going to get it right away. You need to just force yourself. You need to obtain all the secrets of the universe and apply them to this deck. And that's it. And there you guys have it. We have Rosemon Control. Arguably, I think, is the most skill-based, big brain deck of the entire Digimon Set 1 format right now. This deck has went through a few renditions, deck edits, and a lot of test games with random people online and random people at locals. And it's taken this long just for me to post this deck, knowing that I can win all the games. And you guys can win all the games too. Just gotta use that big brain in there and you'll be fine. That's all I got. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.